So if you want to spend some money for your loved one, it's that time of year for another holiday gift guide. First up on the list is something called the MSR Suiren. And this is basically a V60 brewer that came out this year that is kind of a new design, but not. Like, it's basically a V60, but now with fins that you can interchange and make any kind of colors that you want. I thought it looks really cool, and I think it's kind of worth having. And if you wanted something a little bit different, there's also the Spro P5 coffee press. Yeah, coffee press. What it does, it puts this special basket that separates the coffee more. It's a French press, but a little bit more advanced, and it's kind of nice, but it is a little bit more to clean. Now, if you don't want to spend that kind of money, then you might want to consider the little bit cheaper alternative from IKEA, the IKEA 365. That's got a really nice beech wood looking kind of thing. You know, it's really hard to muck up a French press. French presses are pretty simple. There's not too much to go crazy with. So those are really great choices. Now, if you're going to get into, well, if you're going to start brewing coffee, then you're going to need a couple accessories to go with it. One of the things that I've found to really enjoy this year is the Fellow Ode Gen 2 grinder. As of the time that I'm making this, I had a little bit of an issue with them. You know, it's not a cheap grinder. It's $345. Looks pretty sexy. Problem is I had mine just conk out and die on me. But it's on this list because I really have enjoyed using it. I like it. What's really kind of stood out for me is that when I called Fellow and said, hey, there's been an issue with my grinder, they worked it out right away. They sent me a new one within a week and a half's time. The real question is whether or not a company will stand up and be behind their equipment. And in this case, Fellow has. Another thing that I have to recommend, and I hate to say this, but the Fellow Tally Pro Studio Edition. It's got this gloss black look. It's really kind of also sexy. And you know, I'm really one of these guys that's really kind of questioning whether or not you need to have high-tech scales. I honestly think that high-tech scales are a bit ridiculous. I kind of like it. Like, there's this feature called Brew Assist, which I was planning to totally trash and hate on, but I found it to be super simple to use, super easy, super assistive. You put the coffee in, you put 24 grams, you tell them the brew ratio you want 1 to 14.5. It tells you how much to brew, and then when you start to brew, it will now auto time, and then it kind of flashes when you've reached the right amount of volume. So, not that I necessarily needed that, but I kind of have been appreciating it. Now let's move along to some of the more expensive kind of stuff out there. Let's say they want a nice home brewer and you kind of have a little bit more money to spend. For $350, there is the Moccamaster KB. After many years in the coffee business, I finally got myself a Moccamaster this past year, and I really liked it. Moccamaster has been one of the greatest brewers in our industry, but there are some caveats to that, like the brew shower head isn't as widely dispersed as we might like. Now, another one that you might want to consider just came out recently, also by Fellow. It's called the Aiden. Hybrid kind of brewer, I would say. It does have a brew assist mode. It'll tell you what to do, how to do it. You can program it in many different ways. It has 2 different brewing modes, so that you can do a regular basket setting, and then you can do kind of a Melita V to do single cup pour overs. We did a first look at it here on the channel and looked really promising. If you're thinking about a home brewer and you're willing to spend in that $350 range, it might be worth for you to consider. $365, so it's a little bit more than the Moccamaster, but it does utilize more modern technology, modern features, and it also has a hidden built-in video game. Might be worth checking out. For about $35, there is this. This is the Fellow Carter Move mug, thermal mug, blah, 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 blah. And okay, I realize that in this year's gift guide, there's a lot of Fellow product. And I have to say that I have always considered myself to be a Fellow hater. Like, I want to hate on them. I hate the Stag Kettle, but everything else I've tried has been surprisingly good. So I picked this up earlier this year from a place called Out of Office Coffee Roasters. What's going on, my brother? You know, it's a pretty good device. It's got this nice lip feeling thing. It's got this screen here to hold stuff back for $35, and it holds the temperature really well. It's got fancy styling. It comes in a variety of colors. If you go to roasters, of course, when they do their own logos, it costs a lot more. And I did buy this because I wanted to support some friends. I have begrudgingly really come to like it. If your coffee lover likes to go outdoors, here's some other things that you might consider getting for them if they don't already have it that might make their whole coffee process a little bit more enjoyable. This here is the Pocket Rocket 2 by MSR. It comes in this little tiny case. It's really small. The wings flap out, right? And then you use this little thing here to a valve to adjust the flame, and that goes on a can of, a can of isobutane. The isobutane is pretty cheap. You get them around $6, $7 per can. This is about $65. It's actually really small. It could be expensive stocking stuffer, right? So you just take this and it goes in this case. It's all very tidy. This is the MSR Teakettle. This tea kettle is aluminum, hard anodized, really lightweight, and very convenient. Now, the spout isn't necessarily designed for pouring coffee, for really strict control over your coffee, but if you're out in the woods, if you're out and about, there are compromises to be made, and I think this is a very nice compromise. Very lightweight, compact, holds enough water. Like, I'm making 12, 14-ounce cups of coffee, more than enough in this thing. And with the MSR stove, it heats up really fast, and if you get both together, this stove will fit in there, so a little bit more compact, right? I typically use terry cloth towels. I've used those for many, many years. I really like them. And maybe I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon in that I'm stuck in my ways. Just a few months ago, I just started using these. These are microfiber towels, and I found them to be really amazing to work with for coffee. They do have this kind of, like, the microfiber fibers stick to my fingers a little bit, so that's why I've never really liked them. But I can't deny the convenience, the absorbency when you're trying to dry something off, and then the fast drying. Leave them out and they'll dry really well, and they're fairly cheap. Like, you can get a whole 12 pack for like $9. It's super nice. If you want something that's really nice to give to your coffee person, like a stocking stuffer, they will love you in the end. So if you want to spend some money for your loved one, here's a couple of espresso grinders that you might want to consider. First up is the Mahlkonig X54, and this little tiny grinder is really developed for the home by Mahlkonig. It's about $500, and it is really quite nice. I put this in an application recently where we're using it as a decaf grinder, and it's held up very well. This is a commercial setting in a coffee shop. It's not that fast. It's a relatively slow grinder, but it is a grinder, though, that if you want to use it for home, it has enough, enough leeway, not leeway, but range, so that you can both grind coffee for espresso as well as coffee for pour over brewing with the same grinder without having to change burrs, without having to change grinders. If you're looking for one grinder to rule them all, this is one you might consider. More expensive than the Fellow, but not as wildly expensive as the next one, which is the Mahlkonig E65S. Now, this is also another grinder we put into service in a commercial environment, and it's awesome. Like, I think this espresso grinder is just top notch. There's two levels. There's the E65, and then there's the E80. The E80 is truly kind of the holy grail of these grinder series, but it's also wildly expensive. If you can afford that, you should buy that, because you will never need a grinder again unless you're kind of a coffee geek and you just want to tinker more and you just can't stop buying gadgets. Then you'll always want to buy more, no matter how nice of a grinder I can suggest to you, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But this E65S, and the S is the important, because the S is the dosing grinder, right? So what you do is you program it to dose so many grams of coffee, then you put the portafilter in, it grinds it out. So if you want 18.27 grams, you can get your 18.3 grams. It won't go down that fine, maybe just to the tenth of a gram. If you want something like that, you can totally dial that in, and you just put just like this, and done. Awesome. Fast. It's got everything you want. Great grind particulate size, very consistent, really excellent. But the problem is, it's $2,700 or somewhere around there. So you really have to love the person you're giving that to. Now, another tool that you might want to consider for your coffee loved one, especially if they're into espresso, is a proper coffee temper. I've got the Reg Barber temper, and I think Reg Barber tempers are the pinnacle of tempers in the world. There may be other ones that are more expensive. Those are all kind of rubbish. The Reg Barber is the original and is the best still today. It's got the right shape, it's got the right feeling, got the right balance. Everyone else are imitators. And I've tried so many tempers over the years from many, many different companies. but I always go back to my Reg. Time and time again, it truly is the best Tamper. And if you want something that's going to last you a long time, that you're going to be able to take with you for as an heirloom kind of project, this is the Tamper for you. I've had my first Tamper since 2003, and I still use it today. All right, next up is a couple things that are going to be for your coffee lover, but may not necessarily be directly in relation to the preparation of the coffee. One of the things that I always have been using for many, many years now are notebooks. Notebooks are a great way for you as the coffee person, the barista, the chef, or whatever you do, whatever pursuit you have, to write down and make notes and plan your projects. I've got notebooks from years back, all sizes, all different types, and I just chronicle all the work that I'm doing. Any kind of new dish that we're working on, any kind of recipe, any kind of coffee dish, anything that we're doing, it's documented somewhere. Even like woodworking projects and other projects around, I've been using these notebooks for many, many years. And the best thing is that once you get to a certain point, you now have a library that you can reference of your own work. And maybe one day if you decide that you want to print a book of your genius, you can use these to do that. Recently, I just discovered this company in Bethesda, Maryland called Odyssey Notebooks, and I picked up one of their notebooks at one of the pen shows, and I really have found it to be really nice. It's made from Tomoe River paper, which is this very special paper from Japan. I really didn't know much about it, but I met the owner and she was so enthusiastic about it. She was like so into it. I was just like, oh my gosh, this woman is so into her product that I'm like, it's gotta be worth checking out at least. It's not terribly cheap as far as notebooks go. So this one, when it came in at $45, I was like, whoa, that's kind of pricey, but you know what? I wanted to give it a try, and the paper has a really beautiful feel to it, and the way that my pen glides over it, I'm really finding it to be quite lovely. Now, I wish I just had the other notebooks that I had finished so I could get more into the Odyssey. But if you're looking for a notebook, I would say check out the Odyssey notebooks. I think they're really a nice notebook to consider using this very special paper that the true aficionados seem to be wild about. I'm not a true aficionado of paper, so I don't really know much about it, but I'm just like, whoa. I love it already. I love it already. Now, if you also have these notebooks, you're also going to need some writing instruments. One of the ones that I've been using for many years is the Lamy Safari. Really nice fountain pen that's great for entry-level beginners. They're great pens to use on a daily basis. I carry a Lamy Safari with me in most places. Easy to use, it's comfortable, it feels nice, it writes well, and the best part about it, it's not terribly expensive. It's not several $100s, so if you lose it, you're really hurting. Like I did that once and I was really hurting. And I've also lost a Lamy Safari. I have like, $50 or whatever it is. Yeah, it sucks, but you're not like hurting as much as when I lost the Mont Blanc. Like the Mont Blanc was like crushing to lose. The Lamy Safari, not too bad. And if you're thinking about inks, I tend to use the Pilot Iroshizuku. Pilot's a company from Japan. They make really lovely inks. I love the pigmentation, the colors. I tend to use one of their green colors. As you can probably tell, I like the green color. Another thing that you might want to consider, if you happen to watch the TV series The Bear, you would have seen Carmi, the character, writing in his sketchbook, and he was making all these detailed drawings. If you're that kind of person that wants to make detailed drawings and do it in color, then you might want to consider some colored pencils. And the pencils that I think are really nice, that would be a great gift, especially if someone bought me a pencil set like that, I would be totally stoked, is the line from CARANDACHEcom. CARANDACHEcom is a company out of Geneva, Switzerland, and their pigments are like they are super nice, really, really beautiful, just really a lovely pencil to use. I think that they're fabulous. And any of their artist crayons, pastel colors, CARANDACHEcom is really a great choice for you to consider. We've covered the fountain pen, we've covered colored pencils. How about a regular pencil? One of the regular pencils I've been using recently is a mechanical pencil. It's the Graph X5 by a company called Tomoe out of Japan, and they use a 0.5 millimeter lead that it's mechanical, so you're just doing this kind of thing. And I've been using that now for the last month, and I've really, really enjoyed using it. The 0.5 millimeter lead is really great for fine detail work, especially in my notebooks, and it's not terribly expensive. It's like $13. All right, now there's a couple other items that I wanted to note here that I would like to have included in this gift list, but I'm not sure about the availability, especially here in the United States. And the first one is the two-way cup. I picked this two-way cup up at the SCA Expo. It was like $16 for the smaller kind of espresso size. And what this cup does, it has two edges on opposing sides that are shaped differently so that it delivers the liquid to different portions of your palate, so it highlights and diminishes different characters of your coffee depending on what side you're drinking of. I bought one because I wanted to check it out and I thought maybe it might be bunk, but it actually worked out pretty well, and I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting to have. It might be worthwhile having in your collection. They are available still in Hong Kong. I'm not clear on if they ship to the United States or how that works, so that's why I didn't include it as part of the regular offerings. Another one to think about is the vacuum brewer that we saw from Young Ro down in Dallas, Texas. He's this really great inventor, really enthusiastic, really interesting guy who has this glass vacuum brewer that I really like, and I bought a couple of them, but the only reason I'm not including them here on the gift list is they're kind of hard to get. I'll include his contact number down below. If you want to call him, give him a call, reach out to him. I think they're really interesting brewers, worthwhile for playing around with, especially if you want to experiment with things. It's really a great brewer. One last thing, if you need coffee, come check out my coffee, SproCoffee.com. We've got some great old school style coffees, like nicer, deeper roast coffees, meaning that we're roasting full city for our house coffee as well as our espresso, but we also have a variety of single origins that are, we source from different farmers around the world, and some of them are lighter roast. If you're looking for a certain roast profile, let me know. We could talk. And I guess that's it for this year. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and see you then. Oh my gosh. Oh, come on. Come on, man. This round lid just almost nearly rolled down the mountain.